Hi everyone, I'm going to be talking today about depth, specifically in an environment situation. Uh, I've been asked by two separate patrons to be talking about space and getting some kind of understanding about space, especially going into the background, into depth. And that's exactly what I'm going to be addressing today. I'm going to give some tips and notes on how to think about this stuff. Hi, my name is Luis Escobar. I'm a storyboard artist on the Simpsons television show. I've been working on the show for over 20 years. This particular drawing here that I'm going to be talking about is a drawing from one of my patrons, Anastasia. But Aaron also, he asked me about depth and space. And as I explain this problem that Anastasia has, hopefully I will be able to answer Aaron's problems as well. Anastasia was asking me about this particular side of the garage. She asked me if it was okay if this garage was thinner or less thick than this side of the house. She thought it looked weird if it was the same length. Well, the answer is absolutely yes. In perspective, when you're looking at the side of a thing, it actually is much, much, much shorter than when you're looking at it from the front. So before I even begin talking about this, I'm going to recommend a book. So let me pull it up. The book is called Perspective for Comic Book Artists: How to Achieve a Professional Look in Your Art. Now, this is a fantastic book. It just goes over perspective in a very, very easy to read, not dry at all kind of a way. And the way it's done is in the form of a comic. So here's actually the example of what's inside the comic, the book. So this is what it looks like. Okay? It's an actual comic where it actually talks about perspective. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it actually talks exactly about this very problem. They talk about it here. It's called convergence. Convergence, what it means is that when you have when you have objects as they recede in space, notice how the lines slowly get closer and closer and closer together. Do you see? Do you see how that happens? And they even go over here. So this is wider and then it gets thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. Eventually, when it gets so far into the distance, the convergence doesn't seem to happen as much. It just looks very flat. But at first, you see that it gets thinner and thinner and thinner. So even if it's flat, and then it's explaining this here. So see how see how these lines recede in space and they get closer and closer and closer together. That's what you're experiencing. That's what you're asking me, if it's okay for this side of the building to get thinner. Yes, absolutely, because of this phenomena called convergence. So in fact, the tricky part is actually getting the convergence correct. There are a few ways to get it correct. One way is to eyeball it. You know that this side of the house will be smaller than this side of the house. So by definition, if you measure and if they're the same size, the same distance, then it may be wrong, unless the side of the house is longer than the front. So this is a complete square, but let's say this is rectangular, then in fact this would actually look like this, because it would be a rectangle, and a rectangle is, depending on the rectangle, it may be 2 times bigger than the square. And so this actually looks like, if you split it right here in the middle, it is 2 times bigger than this. And it would be okay. It would look okay. It would be fine. But if this side of the house is exactly the same size as this, then no, it would probably, the wall would probably be right here. Okay. So I'm going to give you some tips on how to check to see where you should put the side of the house. One of the things that is useful is, because now we have the vanishing point here, is to actually draw a square. All right, so let's forget about these walls. And let's just worry about the square of the house. So I'm drawing through. So let's say we have, this is the side of the house. Okay. And if the garage is the same size of the house, I wonder. I think I actually got that right. Okay. Then we now know that the wall actually starts here. See? So instead of worrying about the walls and drawing a cube, first you just draw like the foundation, right? Just the bottom part. And then you build your house on top of that foundation. And if you want to find where the center of a of like the box is, so that, for example, you want to put this like right in the middle, then a good trick is to make a little cross, go from one corner of the box to the other corner of the box, and then go from one corner of the box to the other corner of the box, and where these two lines meet is the center. So now you know where to put the tip of the roof. Okay, and now notice that this side of the house and this side of the house is even shorter still. Okay, and now we've got this character here, and there's a door. There we go. Okay, that is the simplest way of making sure that you've got everything where it needs to be. Sometimes you just want to eyeball it. How deep do you want this house to be? That sort of thing. It's okay to eyeball it. It's not the end of the world if it's not completely accurate. If you really want to be sure and want to make it accurate, there are ways. You can make the ground plane. You could grid out the ground plane with a bunch of perfect squares, like a chessboard. And if you do that, you could apply a measurement like 3 feet or a foot per square, and then you can decide that way what size you want things to be. If you want me to do a video of that, I will gladly do so. But right now, for now, if you, all we really need is the guy. So your guy is your guide. So you basically move your guy around in anywhere you want to measure. And so here's the thing. Since your guy is hanging off the horizon line, if he was to walk down to the edge of the garage here, his head would be hanging on the horizon line here. So I mean that's looking good. So let's measure him if he was to walk to the front of the house. Okay. So that's looking okay, although I don't know if there a car that would fit. Look how big he is and look how small this garage is. You may have to pull it out. This doorway is a little small for him. And these windows definitely too small. So right now, like, your house needs to be a lot bigger compared to this guy. If this is the guy that you are using as your form of measurement, then he definitely is living in a very tiny house. So he needs to be, this house needs to be a lot bigger. But this is another way of measuring space and measuring things as far as how big or how small things are in space. So I'm hanging see, because here's for now in this drawing here, I'm making sure that the guy that I'm moving around is the red line of the horizon line is crossing the same part of his head. So if he was to walk back into these trees would be a little, let's see. This tree would be okay. But this tree in the front would not be okay. Unless you wanted it to be a baby tree. See how tiny this tree is? If you were to put his feet right next to it, it's very tiny. And this tree also, again, his head is in the correct spot, and his feet are in the correct spot. So these trees are very tiny. These trees are as tall as he is, so these are Christmas trees. If that's what you wanted, it's okay. But I'm not sure if that's what you wanted. If you wanted them to be full grown, then you need to make them bigger if they're forward in space. Do you see? And we can do the same with these trees here. These trees don't have any, they don't have a bark. So I'm assuming that they go all the way down to the ground. So these trees are very, very big. Okay, so and if that's what you want, that's fine. But this is where but these trees compared to these trees are very different. And if you're having trouble drawing trees, I recommend just go to the internet and look up trees. And different types of pine trees have different shapes, and they're not the typical Christmas tree drawing shape like this. Pine trees tend to not look like this. There's some really good silhouettes here where you can see that um, they make very distinct silhouettes, and they're not symmetrical at all. They're very, very asymmetrical and very organic. So I really recommend you just go, even the typical Christmas tree. There is some kind of organic. It's not symmetrical. There is asymmetry to them. So draw from life. Draw from life. If you don't know what something looks like, go and draw it from life. Go to the park and draw the trees, or look outside and draw the trees. It's very, very helpful. So I recommend draw from life. If you don't know how to do a thing, look at it for real. Those are my suggestions about drawing in depth on the Z-axis like that. I hope that was helpful. If you found this helpful, if you found value in this video, I would encourage you to consider going to my Patreon page and becoming a patron and return value for value. I'd really appreciate it. My kids would really appreciate it. If you become a patron at the lowest level, you automatically get to see these videos, any videos that I upload immediately after I upload them. The rest of the public, the general public, tends to see these a few weeks to maybe even months after I record them. So it's a much longer wait. Also, if you're a patron, your questions get answered first. Even if you ask the question later than somebody else from just from the internet, your videos take precedent because you're my patron. I also give other rewards besides that. So again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. All right, bye.